We'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we are hosting this event on a virtual platform, let's take a moment to acknowledge the stewards and importance of the lands which we each call home. We acknowledge that Toronto, where the Insurance Institute of Canada is located, is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. And we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. We acknowledge the land that many of us are meeting on in this region is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to our relationships and to foster our own understanding of Indigenous peoples and their cultures. Please take a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we are and can, each in our own way, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome, my name is Beverly Lewis Hunt, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm with Career Connections, which is a division of the Insurance Institute of Canada. And today I'm representing our new entrance committee. Just to give a bit of context, our team thought that today's discussion was really timely and would be of interest to some of you in the industry, either who are already partaking in a number of purpose-driven activities at your company, or those whose interest was actually just piqued and wants to explore further the many ways our companies can come together for our communities. It's an important discussion that I feel is going to get louder and louder, just as there are real implications, not only on our consumers and our stakeholders and competitors, but also internally as it deals with recruitment and retention strategies for staff. So I think we'll get into some of those themes as we talk today. So without further ado, I'm going to start with some introductions, and I'm going to get our team to introduce themselves, tell us a bit about some of the programs that they're going to be talking and discussing today, and I'll get Ray to start our group off today. Ray, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Bev. Hello, everyone. My name is Ray Chaya. I lead employee experience and culture for Zurich, Canada, and part of my portfolio is overseeing community investment and partnerships. So a little bit about our community work. We concentrate our efforts on, or I should say, where there is vulnerabilities. Where the greatest vulnerabilities are, we try to go beyond just funding programs. We ensure that there's collaboration with local organizations and proactive involvement in the programs that we support, be it through our corporate partnerships and initiatives such as our partnership with JA across Canada, where we support several of their programming within schools across the country, or be it grassroots community-based projects that we encourage our employees to get involved in, such as the Zurich Insurance Pathway program, which I believe I will be touching on in greater details at a little bit later in the conversation. In brief, I would say prevention is at the forefront of our community work. Our three community pillars or focuses, I should say, are adapting to climate change, improving mental well-being, as well as enabling social equity. These are causes that are not picked at random. They were chosen because they are, I'm going to say, increasingly urgent. They're complicated issues and have far-reaching impact on individuals, communities, and societies as a whole, and they matter to our people. So with that, I will pass it on to the next person.
Thanks, Ray. Sarah, over to you.
Yes, thank you for having me today. My name is Sarah Speedy, and I'm the Manager of Community Investment and Social Impact at Definity Insurance. And similar to Ray, my portfolio relates to managing all of our community relationships, including our employee engagement programs, which also include employee matching and volunteerism, as well as all of our charitable relationships that also include liaising with the recently created Definity Insurance Foundation. Similar to Ray, one of our key pillars and priorities is climate resilience and also focusing on that with a social equity lens. This is something that I'm sure you're going to hear as a reoccurring theme with the insurance industry as general. This is something that is very important to us in our business. And one of the ways that we really look forward to bringing this through is through our company's purpose, which is building a better world by helping our clients and communities adapt and thrive. And so our team specifically focuses on that by investing in the well-being of our communities to create measurable social impact through our programs, which do include our scholarships and our partnerships as well. And looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. Great. Marilyn, how about you?
Hi. So glad that I'm here. So yes, I'm Senior Vice President, Growth, Acquisition, Development. I'm uniquely responsible for our growth in Ontario, but also our brand expansion in Ontario, Atlantic, and Western Canada. And the role that I'm in is actually kind of a unique one that was developed to support cross-organizational growth, specifically for our commercial clients, and to help achieve that alignment and strategic priorities that will help to augment our transversal growth and brand awareness in those markets. As you probably know, we're North America's largest financial cooperative and 5th largest globally. So the role that I'm in really helps to connect our clients, our commercial clients in particular, to navigate across 59,000 employees and find their way through our large organization to help them to identify their financial needs and help to support them in all the ways that they and their employees need. And it's also about keeping our brand vibrant and aligned to our corporate values in communities, in large regional opportunities, and across the country through sponsorship and partnership strategy. And so we do that through Desjardins Foundations, so millions of dollars that we give towards scholarships on an annual basis, supporting entrepreneurs through Good Sparks grants for innovation. And then there are some similar organizations that were mentioned as well, like JA, Enactus, United Way, the YMCA, Toronto Community Benefits, and multiple others that we partner with, as well as with universities across the province. These corporate sponsorships and partnerships that we have really help us to direct our efforts to support a variety of initiatives connected to diversity, equity, inclusion, youth, sustainability, and others, as well as supporting overall community well-being, safety, and individual well-being. I'm also the co-chair of WIC Ontario, which is Women in Insurance Cancer Crusade. And I think, Beverly, that's sort of the driver of where most of my comments today will come from. We are a charity of choice for the insurance industry, thrilled to have been so. And so I've been in a co-chair role for many years now, but WIC has been around for over 25 years. We have chapters in British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. Our mission is to unite and engage the Canadian insurance community so that we fund cancer research together, support and education, so that we improve the lives of those who are affected by cancer. We have a fantastic, exceptional relationship with the Canadian Cancer Society. I'll go into a little bit of that, but essentially we've raised close to $20 million through the generosity and leadership of the insurance community and all of you.
That's great, Marilyn, and we're happy to have your dual voices today, talking primarily about WIC, but also, your great work that Desjardins is involved with. Last but not least, Chantal.
Thank you, Beverly. I'm really thrilled to be here, and thank you to everyone for sharing an hour of your day with us today. I'm Chantal Moore. I'm the manager of social impact for Gore Mutual, and I was really thrilled to be asked to join this call as I myself am a new entrant to the insurance industry, coming from a long career in the nonprofit sector, and was really driven through my charitable engagement with Gore Mutual. Understanding that mutual model really resonated with me. And what really kind of resonated was the impact of insurance and how we are all there for people when they need us the most. And so really thrilled to share this space with my fellow panelists as I know that's the common denominator. So social impact for Gore Mutual is really to accelerate equity in urban environments and across Canada. And we do that through Gore Mutual Foundation, which I have the privilege of supporting. It's over 25 years old and celebrated that anniversary earlier this year. In celebration of that anniversary, we launched the Equity Acceleration Fund. And echoing some of the focus areas of my fellow panelists, we're very much focused on mitigating the risk of climate change and those that are most or will be most impacted by those impacts, which we see as being vulnerable groups and those close to or living within the poverty line. So with that, we launched the Climate and Equity Lab, which is going to aim to understand those impacts of climate change in urban environments, working in partnership with Social Innovation Canada and York University. We've gone through some research to see where are those barriers for us and where are those areas that we can work together. And quite innovatively, we'll be holding workshops in our three key areas, which are Waterloo Region, Toronto, and Vancouver, to uncover through the lived experience of those impacted, as well as leaders in these areas, how can we work together? And Gore Mutual is really honored to be the sole sponsor of this initiative. For us, we're here to be an insurance company that does good. And so through the foundation, we have three streams of funding that I have the privilege of supporting. One is our Strategic Charitable Partnerships Program. And really that's focused on supporting charitable organizations working in that interconnected space of climate equity and poverty. And I'm thrilled to say that over 50% of our foundation's giving is through trust-based philanthropy, where we understand our nonprofit partners are the experts in this area, and we ensure that they have the opportunity to use those funds to their highest priority needs. The other area is our Brokers for Good matching program, which I'm really thrilled to support, which is where we match our broker partners' community investment dollars and hold 2 open calls annually. Just this year, we've given over $200,000 to the causes that matter most to our brokers. And that goes to show that collaboration piece that I know to be true about the sector. And then the third, and very importantly, is our Circle of Good Employee program, where we support the causes that matter most to our employees. And that can be done through matching of their personal givings up to $500 per employee. Or if they hold fundraising efforts, we will match those fundraising efforts up to $1,000, as well as honoring their time should they volunteer on a board or hold any type of volunteer time. We will honor that time by making a financial contribution in their honor. So that's a little bit about Gore Mutual.
That's a mouthful. That's a lot. I think all of our panel today is actually involved with a lot of great initiatives. And I think when we were talking earlier, we mentioned we can talk for hours on all of them. But we're going to zone in on a couple of unique ones. And I think that our own individual companies, and I invite our audience, those members who are listening in today, to type into the chat any of the great works that each of your own companies are working with, whether that's, charitable organizations, employee experience initiatives. Throw that into the chat and let's get a conversation going about all that we're doing. But just to set a bit of context, I'm hearing social impact, I'm hearing the term purpose and sustainability. I'm wondering if you all can just give a little bit of a definition or how it impacts your areas in terms of the work that you do. As an example, Marilyn, from WIC's perspective, that is a charitable organization. Can you just explain a bit about that?
Sure. So in the context of WIC and our relationship with CCS, CCS is the charity. And WIC is the largest non-institutional fundraiser for that charity across Canada. We are the most impactful donor, and we are that because of the generosity of the insurance community. But essentially, the CCS, the Canadian Cancer Society, is the charity. And we struck a relationship with them over 25 years ago that allows for us to flow donations through WIC to the Canadian Cancer Society. And because much of the heavy lifting around the fundraising activity is actually on the shoulders of the very much working board, the volunteers, and Beverly, you're one of them, all of the individuals who help to make a donation come from a donor within the insurance community through WIC and to the Canadian Cancer Society, it means that we've alleviated that burden or that cost out of the charity, and they don't have to spend that. And so the relationship that we established 25 years ago was one that allows us to bypass that administrative fee, and it creates the greatest power that we have and the differentiator between ourselves and really any other relationship between fundraiser and charity. And that's how we've been able to enlist and grow the power of WIC across all of the chapters in Canada, and make it so that 25 million is really achievable by 2025, which is our sort of one of our goals right now. So that's the relationship between ourselves and the charity CCS.
Great. And Chantal, I think you had mentioned, what social impact is. How would you also kind of tie all of this context together?
Yeah, thank you. I like to think of it in the kind of the who, what, when, where, why model. It really kind of helps keep things simple for me. So when we talk about purpose, that's the why, right? That's our North Star. That's why we do what we do, right? And we can all get behind that. When we think about the sustainability being the how, so you hear the word sustainability or ESG, that's the how, and that is something that is a part of all business units. That's what we do internally with our employees, which could mean our DEI council, that could mean our policies, that means how we create an environment where everyone thrives. And it's also our business and what we're doing with our broker partners, what we're doing with our clients. That is an important part of what sustainability is all about. And then, of course, there is the social impact work, right? That is the charitable working. That's the who, and that's the what. Those are those charitable partners on the ground that are helping us support what our focus areas are. And for CORE, that would be climate equity and poverty, and then aligning that. So really, if you think about that model, for me, it kind of keeps things simple and allows you to have a good framework for it.
That's great. That's a great way of explaining it for us. I wanted to jump to Ray and to Sarah, giving kind of two different perspectives of how your programs came to be. How did they originate? Was it a grassroots, organic feel, or was it a corporate initiative? Ray, how about you tell us about your program?
Sure. So I think our community strategy is a little bit of a blend of both. We have corporate partnerships and new programs that we support, but we also really encourage that grassroots mindset, which is a very different project and a much more, in my personal experience, gratifying for me. It was really a passion-driven project. So about 3 years ago, right before the pandemic hit, early 2020, I had a conversation with our CEO, and the conversation really started about how do we attract talent? How do we attract younger talent these days? And then it kind of evolved into, we also have diversity and inclusion that we're starting to look at now. So how do we incorporate attracting diverse young talent to the insurance industry and to our company? And from there on, I started thinking about, how do we take this a little bit further and maybe address some challenges and issues in society, like how do we provide access to employment for the underserved talent in our communities? How do we remove barriers to entry and address the gap between employers who have real labor market opportunities and talented individuals equipped with the potential to learn skills and successfully complete training required by employers? So we started putting together this program, and the individuals that have gone through our program are often those that, for some reason, because life happens, they've lost their way from education, they've lost their way from their careers, and are looking to get back on track. And so through our partnership with the United Way Greater Toronto and their network of agencies, we set out to design a curriculum and build a program that provides access to a set of interconnected education as well as hands-on paid internships, followed by wraparound support services like financial assistance, as well as how do we help them find homes to live in, designed to really help the student gain sustainable industry recognized credentials needed for career opportunities in our industry, so that when they essentially complete the program, they have at the very least the minimum required education and experience to be able to really compete for those open jobs that everyone is out there competing for. So since 2021, when we launched the first cohort of the program, we have engaged 21 students this year from target populations, including those low-income individuals in Black communities, as well as the underrepresented women in the insurance industry. On average, 83% of the individuals that have completed the program have gone on to either secure full-time roles and jobs in the financial industry or have returned to complete their post-secondary education. So building on our 3 years now, and based on industry interest, we recently started expanding the program by focusing on a wider range of underrepresented communities in the Canadian insurance industry, as well as partnering with key insurance players. So last year, Marsh Canada, one of our key brokers, joined the program as a partner. And so both of our companies are now engaged in the curriculum, involving our employees as volunteers throughout the program. And of course, both of the companies host the students as summer interns. And as we continue to grow the program, we are in conversations with additional insurers and brokers who are interested to join the partnership as we begin to transition the program from what started as a grassroots in-house Zurich program to going to be an official United Way insurance program managed completely by the United Way by the end of 2025.
Amazing work. That's a great example of, the collaboration and all of our, companies coming together and to grow this great program. Thanks for that, Ray. Sarah, how about you and Definity's work?
Yes, certainly. So Definity is the parent company to Economical Insurance, and Economical Insurance is a 150-year-old company. And so when we talk about grassroots and corporate initiatives, the essence of Economical has always been neighbors helping neighbors. And so for over 150 years, we've always looked at how are we supporting our communities, how are we really coming together to create that social impact. And one of the pieces that was so fascinating is as we celebrated our 150th year anniversary, we actually found a record that we had donated to the Canadian Red Cross during World War I. And so that relationship with the Red Cross continues to this day. We actually just recently this year announced a $900,000 partnership for their Be Ready and disaster response programming. And so there's been an evolution when it comes to our corporate programming, which is really, really exciting because we continue to work with the Red Cross, not only on Canadian disaster response, but also engaging our employees through their Missing Maps program. And this year we've mapped over 15,000 buildings to support disaster response across the world and be able to provide first responders with the critical information that they need. And so we're really pleased that this evolution of this program and this relationship has continued to the space where it is now, where we as an insurer, and touching back to what some of us mentioned earlier, can start to share the knowledge that we have both from our business, but from our employees as well, to be able to contribute to disaster response conversation and how are we best prepared so that when future specifically climate-related incidents occur, not only are we prepared, but how are we learning from these? How are we shifting our behaviors and building back in a different way to mitigate these disasters happening at the magnitude they are in future? So it's wonderful to see that growth and that evolution. And similarly today, we've also recently launched new initiatives which speak to the evolution of our programming, specifically talking to our climate resilience. So we recently announced a partnership with Green Communities Canada, which was to build green infrastructure projects all over Canada, one of them actually being at our head office in Kitchener-Waterloo, where 60 employees gathered together to build a pollinator garden. But in addition to that, there were several mini forest planting initiatives all across Canada, and there were over 5,000 100,000 square meters planted of new green infrastructure through these initiatives. And so we talk about the grassroots to where we are now, and it's really been an evolution, which is quite exciting to see. And I also wanted to touch on what Ray had mentioned around, bringing in, we call it IDEA, but inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. We've recently rethought and re-evolved our scholarship programming. So traditionally we held relationships with post-secondary institutions across Canada, but we've now brought our scholarship program in-house, and it's specifically focused on supporting equity deserving groups and members of those communities who want to get into the insurance industry, but maybe have an atypical career path to do so. And so that was recently launched this year. And I'm pleased to say we had 11 recipients of the scholarships this year. And we're really approaching it as how are your unique skill sets and talents helping us make insurance better, which as we talk about how we think differently and innovatively of how we're approaching problems that we as a society face, I think is really the key to those growth and those weaving of those programs.
Amazing. Well, it's really music to my ears when we all can come together and figure out ways to bring more people into the industry. So it's great to hear about all of your programs. Marilyn, I wonder if you could tell us about, the origins of WIC. And then it also brought to mind that recently Giving Tuesday was here, one of the many initiatives that you participate in. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, happy to. And I have to say that having spent, the better part of 30 years in the insurance community, working for 3 large organizations, some of whom are represented on the panel today, and so that's great. It's really heartwarming to see the shift that has happened in the industry. There are rules that exist on this panel today that did not exist really in their same way, shape, and form. They were probably more aligned to HR rules as opposed to, in the structure that they deserve and that they exist today. And there are multiple reasons for that, and I think you're going to get into it. I'm really thrilled to hear about some of the programs as well that you're all driving, and I think that it's incredibly important and relevant not only to the younger constituents who are interested in finding their way into an absolutely central part of our economy and what drives economic progress, which is the insurance industry. But it's also about keeping talent here and keeping talent engaged, and all of your programs are doing just that. On the Desjardins side, very quickly, I think that it's deserving to share that we have some really incredible corporate sponsorships and CSR strategies as well. And I know that we talked about, kind of providing some context around CSR strategies and corporate sponsorships. And so for us, yes, the scholarships that we have through Desjardins Foundation is oriented towards youth. For us, it's also very important to ensure that businesses of the future are thriving. And so coming out of the pandemic, our purpose as it relates to working in the interest of members and clients, our purpose became, how do we support these organizations, these companies and individuals who have had a really hard time through the pandemic and who were most impacted during that time. Our Good Sparks program that provides $3 million in grants around innovation is one of the ways that we're doing that. So small businesses, 150 of them receiving $20,000 for their efforts to shift their organizations and make them a little bit more long-standing, sustainable, tying into environmental innovations as well, and improving their operation. So really, helping to ensure that Ontario and Canada's small business community thrives. And then the second is really the Together for Our Youth program. So this is a program that we've supported for forever and a day. It's essentially $50 million that we put towards youth initiatives. And in Ontario, Atlantic and Western Canada, that meant 14 new organizations that we supported. And it was really through the lens of diversity. So ensuring that we were touching on programs that would help youth and marginalized and racialized communities creating a pathway for them so that they could see themselves in the future in an entrepreneurial capacity through financial literacy, and supporting them so that they had a spark and were not so depressed after the pandemic. Those kinds of programs are the kinds of things that that generation looked to, and as parents we look to as well. And it's wonderful to see so many of them coming up through all of the panelists and the organizations represented here. Insofar as WIC is concerned, you know, Giving Tuesday was a huge success. Thanks very much, Beverly, for including this as one of the questions. It happened on November 28th, so essentially it's the Tuesday after Black Friday every year. You know, everyone has spent out of one pocket, probably for year-end holiday gifts. But we ask on that Tuesday that we consider giving to charity, and it's a global trend that started some years ago. Pleased to say that the Canadian P&C insurance community really grabbed hold, and so we were able to raise over $30,000 in that one day through the generosity from the insurance community. And I should say that that also came with a very large financial contribution from Liberty Insurance, and of course matching from the Canadian Cancer Society, noting that our efforts were helping to direct much needed funds towards cancer research and support.
Amazing. That's such great work. You know, the theme today I'm hearing is it takes a village, it takes all of our employees, it takes our whole community to drive a lot of these partnerships. And I wanted to get Chantal your opinion and your thoughts on how your employees are involved in your CSR initiatives. You know, can you provide some examples of the work that you're involved with?
Thank you. So our employees, having their voices heard in our charitable investments is foundational to our social impact, and we do that in 4 ways. The first is our Purpose-Driven Advisors Council. And so I really have the opportunity and privilege to steward the applications that come in from very deserving charities from across the country, and then bring that forward to a group of nominated employees who are nominated for their purpose-driven leadership here at GOR at various levels of the organization. Great thought, diversity of thought, background, and opinion, to really look at the focus of our foundation around that accelerating equity in the interconnected space of climate equity and poverty. And 9 individuals from across the country, GOR Mutual employees, take a deep dive in what we call an assessment rubric, which really kind of equitably scores applications and chooses which organizations they feel best aligned to the focus of the foundation as well as our values, and bring that forward to our executive team for final funding and review. And what was really special for me this year that we introduced was our purpose-driven advisors providing the good news to those successful charitable organizations and allowing them to really feel the impact. And obviously the best part of our job is to give those yeses, right? So being able to engage them in that way was very meaningful. And I'd like to think of that as a very a smaller but a more deeper impact for a smaller group of employees. Then we also have larger engagements that really go across the employee stakeholder group. And the one that we launched this year, which was in celebration of GOR Mutual's 25th anniversary, was Community Day. So this was the first time that GOR Mutual had an enterprise-wide volunteer day in June, and we had over 400 employees support 30 charitable organizations across the country, donating over 900 hours of time on that one day. And the response and the impact was absolutely incredible. For employees to know that at their event, they might have been packing 300, backpacks for unhoused youth in Waterloo Region. Well, at the same time, there were 29 other events with their fellow colleagues doing other meaningful work. And we really invest in skills-based volunteerism with our employees. In the insurance sector, as I said, I'm quite new, but just it's outstanding, the broad skills and expertise within the insurance sector. And what a wonderful way to support our nonprofit partners is to provide some of the skills and expertise that a consultant potentially, that funding for a consultant might not be there in your budget. So on Community Day and through various times of the year, and members of our IT team, our marketing and communications team, business development team are meeting one-on-one with charitable partners and creating action plans for them. So that's really important to us here at GOR. And not lastly, but really special, is around that Circle of Good employee program. So this year, we have donated over $200,000 to the causes that matter most to our employees. And they can submit that, and the stories that come through from our employees are so heartwarming and so generous. So a lot of volunteerism on community boards, or personal donations or fundraising efforts. We really have an opportunity to get to know our employees when you match their giving and get to see what matters most to them. And as part of our Circle of Good program, just to play off what Marilyn was saying, we also celebrate Giving Tuesday at GOR. And this year we did that through our employees sharing, gratitude to their fellow employees. So for 2 weeks leading up to Giving Tuesday, employees who acknowledged a fellow colleague for efforts to impact our purpose-driven culture, if they sent a note of gratitude to an employee, we would donate $100 to one of our community's local food banks. And then the individual who received the high five on Giving Tuesday got to spin what we call the Wheel of Good, winning donations of between $100 to $750 to the causes that matter most to them. And at the end of the day, we had over 350 employees participate and supported 91 various charities, donating $93,000 that day.
That's amazing. Great. Listen, I wanted to actually pause, Chantel, and give a shout out to your VP of and Head of Purpose and Sustainability at GOR, Gabby Polanco-Sorto. In leading up to this panel, she really gave me some insight into the work that GOR is doing. And GOR has led the Purpose Partnership, which I understand to be a collaboration of broker partners. And from 2022 to 23, they commissioned a research designed to identify how to build more resilience for our customers and our communities by clearly identifying, how much they value purpose in the insurance industry. And what I've come to see is that there is a real threat of ignoring purpose-driven initiatives, which probably all of you can attest to, whether it's falling behind the competition, losing access to the best new talent. But as it reflects on employees, there was a couple of interesting stats that I want to share with everyone. 98% of insurance professionals say they would feel more positive about the industry if their company was committed to purpose-driven initiatives. Almost 99% of professionals say that even just one purpose-driven attribute would invigorate and thrill them. And finally, Gen Z and millennials place a particularly high value on purpose-driven initiatives, which leads to my next question. And I wonder, Ray, if you can talk to, what has changed in the industry to motivate, recruit, and retain that new era of Gen Z employees, and especially as part of your program is, reaching out to those young folks.
Yeah, I think a lot has changed. I think long gone are the days where the onus of an interview was on the candidate to just sell themselves and their skills. I think it's a two-way interview now. They still have to sell themselves and their skills, but there's definitely the pressure on the employer to sell themselves as well, because people have a lot of options out there now. So I think, when we're talking about Gen Zs, those born 97 to 2012-ish, they have now actually surpassed baby boomers in the workforce. And so they're having the larger impact on the Canadian labor pool, I'm going to say, and how work is actually getting done. So we can clearly see the workforce composition is shifting as more Gen Zs seek full-time work, more long-term roles. More members of Gen X is starting to retire. The millennials are really entering their prime earning years at this point. So what we're now seeing is the natural evolution of generational transition. So Gen Z is transforming, I'm going to say, and disrupting to a certain extent the workplace. They have really started to inspire our leaders to focus on mental health, for example. That was never a conversation at the C-suite, and yet it is today. They are pressuring the industry and employers to establish a company purpose. We talked about that today in a way that contributes to a better society and prioritizes a company's purpose along with the bottom line and the profits and the numbers. I think each new generation brings in its own challenges, its own preferences, its own priorities, that eventually will help shape that culture in that workplace and can often also create management challenges for business leaders. So I think the growing influence of Gen Zs in the workplace today is really just a reminder to business leaders that they'll have to contend with the challenges and issues unique to the segment of the labor market, similarly to how 25 years ago when I first entered the insurance industry, baby boomers had to look closely at this new species of millennials that hit the job market and really understand them. So we as employers, if we haven't already, have the responsibility today to develop recruiting and retention strategies that bring in Gen Zs to the forefront, appealing to their value-based approach, celebrating their unique contributions, and what they bring to the table, which really includes a passionate commitment to improving our communities and essentially our planet.
Well said. Marilyn, I want to ask you your thoughts on this. Also, from Desjardins' perspective and also from WIC's perspective, as I do know that you have a wing, a next gen wing as well that you could probably talk to.
Thank you. You are such a phenomenal ambassador. I just love you for that. Certainly from Desjardins' perspective, I echo everything that Ray has said. It really stems, yes, from purpose, but the conversation that we have with new potential hires, I would say that this is beyond the next generation. It's across all opportunities to interview and recruit. It can be on campus with any number of universities that we partner with, but it could very much as well come up in conversation and be a central part of the conversation with an experienced hire. And why? Because the expectations of those individuals has changed. It has changed for the better. It has changed because they've seen that happen through the course of their own role within their organization. If they're an underwriter or if they're a financial analyst, they know that there are requirements around ESG. There are requirements around the social well-being and the social strategies that organization has. And so, of course, when they look to being hired by a new organization or to pursue a role, they're going to try and find that alignment with their own personal values. I know I did. And that's how it is that, I ended up at Desjardins, because those values were so incredibly aligned with my own that I thought, well, this is the place for me. So definitely from a workplace perspective, every opportunity that we can have to demonstrate and to invest in. It's an important part of our budget to invest in opportunities and sponsorships and corporate partnerships that will give our employees the opportunity to be out in community, to have that opportunity to walk, in the Santa Claus parade, to do good in community through food drives, and working in soup kitchens. I mean, whatever it happens to be, and that it happens not just once a year when it feels like it's the time of giving, but it actually becomes part of the social the social governance and the CSR DNA and that sort of cultural fabric of your organization, which I think every panelist can feel is being delivered through their rules. From WIC's perspective, it's very much the same thing. I mean, we're all getting long in the tooth. The board has to evolve. The individuals who are chairing committees need to move on, and there's a long list of individuals in the insurance community, young and old, who are looking to step up and to do as much as they can, because cancer knows no boundaries, and they know that it's a great way to give back. And so from a volunteer perspective, there's never a shortage, and we're always looking for people to step into those roles. And also for those sort of high performing individuals who do want to have leadership opportunities, it's a fantastic way to be connected in a way that is central to the charity of choice for our insurance industry, to give them opportunities to have an inside track and understanding the grant review process that the CCS embarks on every single year to direct donations to the most deserving cancer research projects. So really technical, but an instrumental part of what happens within WIC. And I will say that this aspect of what drives people into the insurance industry, what keeps them in the insurance industry, is changing the way people think about our industry. It isn't something you just fall into, it's something you pursue. And there was a comment that was made at the very outset about how the insurance industry is very close to philanthropy in a way, because we put people back to where they were before, right? We make them whole again after bad things happen. Creating that connection through things like WIC's national sponsorship program, creating an opportunity for organizations to embed WIC within their own employee engagement strategy has been one of the reasons why we jumped from 5 national sponsors to now 20. I mean, it's unbelievable how many organizations have stepped up and said, we want that for our employees, not just because it's the right thing to do and that it direct funds into cancer research in really meaningful ways, but because from an engagement perspective, our employees are looking for that connection. They're looking for a connection to purpose, to community engagements, and WIC is central to the insurance industry and does all of that in one fell swoop through national sponsorship.
So, thank you, Marilyn. Sarah, I wanted to ask you just in terms of the culture, because Definity has changed and transitioned, but how has the culture changed at your company since you began your work, or how has CSR changed during your time in the role?
Yeah, certainly. So I would say the culture itself hasn't changed. We've always had a giving culture. Our employees have always wanted to support their communities at the local level. What has changed is how we approach this. And so previously, I've been in this industry, the community investment industry, for over 10 years. And so when I reflect back on the beginning of my career, so often community investment typically sat on the side of someone's desk. It was that addition of, this is your job, but go support this. And the fact that we're even having a panel about this, and all of the people on the panel, this is our role. This is really, and it's such an exciting role to be in, but it really speaks to the importance of the shift of the industry. And I always say it's moved from the transactional to the transformational. So it's no longer about writing a check and posing with that big check. It's how are we as a business working alongside community partners and charitable relationships to really solve problems, solve societal challenges. And so when I also reflect back, our team sits on our ESG team, which is a really strategic place, I think, for us to sit within our organization, because it allows us to work with members all across the business so that people don't just look at us to be doing these things, but we can really challenge and say, how are you in your role able to contribute to society? How are you able to influence that social change? And what are you able to do in your day-to-day that makes things a little bit better? And that really makes me energized and excited, because what's going to create the change that we're all looking for is everybody's buying in and everybody is pushing in the same direction. So that's the biggest shift I've seen. But to me, it's very energizing and very exciting that everyone understands the purpose of our company. But again, going back, and it's been reflected on this call, the purpose of our industry to really come together and create this change together.
Yeah. And it leads into this whole theme that we've been talking about today, which is collaboration. I think when we all met, we realized that, you know, collaboration is really what's kind of struck a chord between all of our organizations, and it's been able to propel us further together. Ray, do you want to give some thoughts in terms of that theme?
Yeah, I think just kind of in vein of what we're talking about, this transition, this shift that we're seeing. Similarly, it used to be very much siloed, right? Everybody in their own companies to do their own community stuff. You don't share too much because you're competitors, right? We don't want to share too much with too many other people. What we're seeing now is that there's a clear understanding, I think, that when it comes to stakeholders and community, the biggest impact really happens when we're all together pushing in the same direction. For example, when I first launched the ZIP program, the Zurich Insurance Pathway Program, I was very clear on the intent of the program. It was not a talent pipeline for Zurich. It was a talent pipeline for the insurance industry. I wanted these individuals to come out of this program and have all the jobs out there in the industry that they can apply to, not just our jobs. But that took a little bit of a mind shift for certain people, because people would say, well, we have the ZIP program. That's a great talent pipeline. And it's like, no, it's not. It's the community pipeline. That's what that is. So I think more and more what we're seeing is this shift of, if we all work together when it comes to these community issues that frankly are becoming more urgent by the day, you know, and our entire planet is only at stake here. I think we are very quickly learning that there is power in numbers, there is power in passion. And when we all collaborate, we are seeing that change a lot faster than if we were just doing it on our own.
Absolutely. I wanted to know if Chantel had anything to add to that, or Marilyn. Chantel?
I completely agree. You know, I think it's so amazing. Actually, Sarah and I sit on a working group together with another insurance company as well. And without a question, there's no competition when it comes to the investments we're making in community. And the days of that being seen, I would say I've received no pushback at all in regards to how are we going to collaborate with our partners when the need is so great and it's upon us now. You mentioned, Gabby, earlier in this call that the purpose partnership, great example as well, to say we want to commission research for the betterment of the insurance sector to see the impact of purpose. It is no longer a nice to have anymore. This is something for resilience of our business and also resilience of our communities. And that's something we can all get behind. So when it comes to collaboration on the social impact side of things, I would say the insurance industry is leading in that area.
Yeah. And Marilyn, I know when we had talked, there was a lot of collaboration over that we were also talking about and discussing that, you know, Desjardins and WIC, of course, are involved in.
Well, as a cooperative, we can't help ourselves, right? We're 123 years old, and this has just been the way that we've moved business, and we've helped you know, millions of clients on an annual basis. So yes, working collaboratively and finding those partnerships is just in our nature. But it goes beyond, you know, words on a page and the nice tagline. It is actually a much more sustainable path or strategy to work in partnership because everyone has skin in the game. Everyone brings their own objectives, and they become mutual objectives. And to be honest, it's a much more efficient way of getting through and tackling a shared problem. So whenever you can work with a partner in community, whether you can work with government or with competitors, there's a greater opportunity for long-term success and creating those win-win outcomes that really have a much more sustainable outcome. So I think that was sort of more of the conversation that we were having. From WIC's perspective, partnerships rule. I think our national sponsorships are a really strong example of that. But really at the source of it, if we go back a quarter of a century, the partnership that we have with the Canadian Cancer Society is an incredible one, and it doesn't exist in any other way. And so that's been the driver for us to have the kind of power with our donations over the course of many years. And we look to doing more with that. We look to having more opportunity to work with partners, whether within the brokerage community, whether within within individual insurance companies, or the community at large. Because cancer affects everyone, we all have skin in the game. We all have an interest in maximizing the efforts and making sure that we kind of tackle that problem together. So yeah, I think that the partnership piece is incredibly important, both at WIC and obviously within our beautiful cooperative.
That's great. So to end things off, 30 seconds or less, what do we see as what's next? the big question. Ray, I see you laughing. I'm going to start with you.
Oh gosh, do you have an hour? Listen, I think we're going to see fewer bold statements from companies, as we've seen over the last few years, on every hot button issue, and more compassionate action and communications focused on their employees and the local communities where they can make a more pronounced impact. I think meaningful and skill-based volunteering will move further into the limelight because I think it offers an answer to many of the challenges facing employees, communities, societies, including the labor shortage of nonprofits that they're experiencing. I think we're going to see a lot more embedding of diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging in community initiatives, a lot more partnerships with nonprofits who already have a deep understanding of the challenges and are often on the ground in the trenches working directly with the communities that we are looking to impact. I think employee resource groups or employee-led groups are also going to become a much more bigger focus. They are a key leverage for fostering belonging in the workplace and can often be a fantastic vehicle to really drive that message and lift that culture of the organization into the community. So I think despite the downturn, the economic downturn that we're all experiencing, I'm going to go on a limb and say that I think most companies will maintain the investments to support key populations and issues while continuing to back their people in making a positive impact at work and in their communities.
Sarah, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look, even over the past 5 years, if you had said 5 years ago, what do you see the future? I don't know if all of us would have seen the past that we've had. And so I think when I look forward, it's not about predicting certain events or certain way things are going to be, but it's how we as businesses, but also as an industry, are aligning to our purposes and staying authentic to that is going to really drive how we respond to future events. And I think just the fact that even on this call, it's been reflected that we're already looking at collaboration. How are we able to come together to really drive social change? And so I think that that's really going to be the vehicle that brings us forward of how are we adapting, how are we responding, and how are we really bringing everybody together and trying to make strong movements to be able to shift society ultimately. So it's hard to predict, but it's about being authentic and knowing the direction that you're headed and staying true to that.
Great. Excellent. Chantal.
Quickly, I just to echo what Ray and Sarah are saying, I see an opportunity for us to amplify social impact by coming together. I see across the insurance sector an opportunity for us to make a collective commitment to a focus area that means is a focus that we share together to create that impact. And two, I would just say further capacity building support for the nonprofit sector. Being a corporate supporter, I could see that becoming almost a part of pledged commitments to ensure that not only are we supporting their community work, but we're supporting the people behind that community work.
Great. Marilyn, we are at time. Any one word to summarize to wrap this all up?
Yeah, I think that we spoke a lot about purpose today. And so from Desjardins' perspective, knowing that we were founded by probably Canada's first social entrepreneurs, Alphonse and Dorimène Desjardins, it stands to reason that we're going to be driving towards living up to our purpose, living out our values in a way that really lives up to the expectations of this evolving customer base in Canada. And from WIC's perspective, man, we've got no shortage of great goals. We're going to work continuously with our sponsors to ensure that we can further support their engagement plans with their employees. Work closely with our ambassadors, who are fantastic, and our next gen group that helps to guide us in the direction that new employee demographic is looking for from a charity of choice. And of course, shameless plug, we're going to do all kinds of great events in the industry to keep uniting us, to keep us doing good things for cancer research, like our gala coming up May 1. Mark your calendars. It's a jungle out there, so get your leopard print outfits ready and come and join us at Relay for Life at our golf tournaments and learning breakfast. It's wonderful being in this position, and a real privilege to have been on today's panel.
Wonderful. Thank you all. I think it's important that we just continue the conversation. This is just the start. And I love, Marilyn and Ray said, these positions and these roles did not exist, 10 years ago. And here we are with departments and all of this great work within the industry that I think all of us need to amplify and learn about and pay it forward. So once again, thank you to all of our panelists today. Thank you for all of you who have joined us on the call. As I mentioned, look out for some of the snippets that Gore Mutual is doing with their purpose work. I think it's coming out in Canadian Underwriter and some snippets coming out on social media. So look out for it and keep the conversation going. So thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Having us.